So, the last theory that I'm going to discuss is cognitive theory, and this falls under psychological trait theory. So, this looks at the connection between individual reasoning and thinking and the commission of crime. So, it presupposes that when a person is has faulty judgment and they're not thinking critically and clearly, and their reasoning is off, then they commit crimes. But what's driving that crime is poor decision making that comes from an immature mind, an immature brain. So there's something called aging out. It's a process by which our minds begin to mature and we can think more critically and more rationally at a certain point. But oftentimes, when we look at cognitive explanations for crime, as the person thinks, that's how they act. As a man thinketh, so is he. That's the scripture in the Bible. But we see that with some criminals. If you can change the way they think, then you can change the way they act. Oftentimes, this is called cognitive behavioral therapy. So here's the example or the evidence of how cognition is tied to behavior. An unfortunate example of the child molester. This is the perfect example of distorted thinking. So here's some elements. The first is nature of harm. They don't see sex with children as wrong. They may argue that, well, we as a society have defined children as non-sexual beings. Therefore, we as a society decide that children are not up for sexual activity. But in some societies, children do have sex with adults, and it's perfectly fine there. So they really don't see a child as a victim of their sexual predatory behavior. The child is not a victim. As a matter of fact, they will even see the child as a willing accomplice or someone that's willing to engage in that type of behavior. And then entitlement. The person feels entitled to have sex with whomever they want. The child is no different. So they believe they're entitled to have sex with anyone they want, and that includes a child. A dangerous world. The interesting thing about the child molester is that they are aware that the world is dangerous. And that's probably because they are aware that people like them exist. So they're fearful of the world, and they believe that the only way to gain control is through the use of violence. And here's something else, uncontrollable behavior. That is also part of the way that they think. They do not feel that they are in control of their sexual impulses. And for that reason, they may harm a child.